up and sit down.
Yeah, and that was no way supposed to be a dig on Kyle Hockey Club. I just compare it to them because they are a well-established organization that brings a lot of legends in themselves.
Right.
But, I just want to throw that part in because I know people send us messages and emails all the time on wanting me to say how much fun I have or what something means to me. So it was really nice having Jimmy Hart on my left and Mac Davis on my right and everybody else right in front of me. So, and then me making jokes to everybody on how, the people behind me can only see my ass or Mac's ass and Jimmy Hart's ass and nothing else.
Did they compare the three of you and rank them, or?
They kept telling me to move my ass. I don't know if they meant for me to shake it or to turn so they can see everything, but they could have looked at the screen.
Shake it.
Probably.
Did you give him a little shimmy?
Yeah, I gave him some shimmies or two. I think I heard a few people throw up. That could have been the heat, could have been my ass. Don't know.
I had a friend that was sitting in the audience that got thrown up by another fan.
Thrown out
on his back.
Is that?
No, my buddy got puked on from another fan.
Nice.
We did have a fan incident during the wrestling matches where I did get it on camera, where for some reason a drunk, overheated fan decided he wanted to try and take on the big guy that you were talking about, Jim, that ungodly tall.
Yep.
And then, the way Herb does it, for all the fans who don't know, is if you invite the guy and bring the guy or the person, because females will do it too, that want to interfere or try to assault one of the wrestlers, he'll kick everybody out. And it ended up being 2 rows of people that got kicked out because they chased this wrestler out of the room to try and catch him.
Well, unless you can blur faces, you're not going to be able to post that one, though.
Well,
so let's go into the show. Like I said, I don't know if this is the correct order. This is just going off of my memory because the locker room was so hot. I actually went into the hallway and was watching the show. I
can tell you 8, 9, and 10.
Right. You had Austin, how do you say it? Melitalo versus Steve Fender.
I wish I would have got to watch that one. Both of those two are pretty damn good performers in there.
I was watching it, and Steve Fender was just tearing apart Austin's leg, and it was, I would hate to say cool because it was Austin, but just watching Steve work and pinpointing a certain part of the body and just sticking to it, and he did.
Is there an Indian Death Lock on?
I don't know. Actually, I do not know how that match ended. I don't know, but it was so cool. See, my problem was being in the hallway. I had a lot of fan interaction that I wasn't looking forward to because I was watching the match, but they would just stop me and give me well wishes for later on that night. So I wasn't able to remember who actually won that match, but I do know it was awesome watching the parts that I did because seeing Steven work is just awesome. You had the Top Guns, Joy Vanetti and Brandon versus Glenn Williams and Waco.
So, don't act like you're sounding like you forgot the Great Beretta's name.
Come on, you got to thank him for the house.
That's true. I'm surprised Victoria didn't thank him for the house too, because she was thanking a lot of people, for the house, So,
I was near
who
him when
knows?
she thanked one of the other legends, and Brandon wasn't paying attention. I'm like, "Did you hear that, Brandon?" She just said, "Thank you for the house." He started blushing pretty quick.
He got bright red. That was so funny.
What was pretty cool about the wrestling show, most of the time when there's legends there, for like a Hall of Fame or for a fan fest, they do that part and then they go about their own ways. They go back to the bar, they go back to their room, or the legends stuck around and watched the show and was bullshitting with each other in the hallways. And Victoria actually took a seat. She was in one of the back rows watching. Tugboat watched the whole night.
I think Enzo was watching too for a while.
Gary
It
Hart
was,
was watching.
yeah. Teddy Long was watching because I'll get to that match in a minute, but I'll tell you. So we had Top Guns versus Glenn Williams and Waco. I don't think Glenn Williams and Waco got along too good.
No, I think there's a little tension in the ring.
Yeah, because towards the end there, I think Glenn Williams just kind of gave up and let Waco take the blow. I don't know. Did you see that match, Bobby? Did you?
I didn't really see it, but I do know that those two are very different personalities, to say the least.
I get that. But Waco, I was with Waco for a good portion of my wrestling career. He is my more serious in order to not necessarily wanting to get the win, just wanting to hurt and score some damage on him. Where
Well,
I guess
how many times did Waco tell you you're going to do what I tell you to do?
Well, yeah, I think that was Glenn's problem. Glenn is more of a
Free
let me
spirit.
do. Yeah, Glenn is like, let me do one or two moves, break it down, tag in, let him do all the work, and let me come back in and do a couple more flashing moves. And then I think he just gave up on the situation and I think he left Waco to eat crow, and lose.
Yep, he called no joy and rocked out.
Right. Yeah, so the Top Guns went over on that one. Then you had Sheik Prater versus Benjamin Trust. That was it was a good match. You had a skinnier, high flyer type of guy with Benjamin Trust versus Sheik Prater, who was, not a skilled wrestler, but more of a brawler. And they went at it. Benjamin Trust ended up getting the pin, but got hurt in the long run because Sheik Prater wasn't letting him get away. So after he scored the pin, Sheik actually got him at the end there too. So I seen Benjamin like limping back out of the ring, but for the most part,
that was one I wanted to watch and I didn't get a chance to. I feel like those two could have put a hell of a show on.
Yeah, so you had Benjamin trying to fly around Prater, and actually I sat down with Benjamin before the match, and was telling him, I said, Prater's a big guy. If you can get it, you can probably, take advantage of it. And I think that's what he did, because he was trying to do a bunch of moves. It's like one of those stick and move, stick and move. And that's what ended up getting Prater the loss. Trust was able to work around him and eventually capitalize. It's just that when Benjamin thought he had it won and took the eye off the opponent, Sheik Prater got some revenge. So is that feud over? Probably not. I'm pretty sure that you'll probably see them go at it again. Anything that Devastation Inc. Does, they always want to get the revenge if they ever get a loss. But very good match. You had the Funks, the proteges, I guess you would say. It was a three-way dance. It was two slender wrestlers versus a tall, more belt guy. Yeah, it was a lot of bouncing off the big guy, I guess you would say, and then the big guy capitalizing on him, being able to pick him up and toss him around wherever he wanted to. This was another match that I wish I could have got their names, but it's not posted anywhere where the names were, so I couldn't tell you who they were. But it was a good match, and I couldn't tell you who won it either, because it was another time where I was getting involved into some fans that were stopping me. But from what I've seen, it was a pretty good match. I just couldn't tell you who won.
I expected a little different from them coming from the Funkin' Dojo. I expected a little bit different.
Yeah.
Not that it was bad. It just, I expected more of the funk style, and it really wasn't there.
Well, see, that's the thing too. The Funk's dojo is a leaping pad to get people. They're highly respected, so they can't teach like the St. Louis style, the pro wrestling part versus the indie. They got to teach the indie to get them into like the NXT and the other platforms to get you to jump into WWE. But yeah, I get what you're saying. It was a good match. But yeah, I would have expected a little bit more hardcore-ish. But for what it was,
that's what I was expecting, because Terry and Dory, they were hardcore.
right.
They went up against Bruiser Brody and Stan Hansen all the time. They weren't. I expected more of that, but it was still a good match. It was just a little less than what I was expecting.
They were hardcore, but they could also mix up a little bit of that technical if they needed to as well, though.
Especially Dory.
Yeah.
Dory. They were both NWA champions, and I'm surprised that one of them didn't do the spinning toe hold. Being products of Dory Funk. But that unfortunately that's kind of a move that's dated. You don't see it much too often now.
Yeah, but think of the crowd reaction every time you guys did an old school move. You couldn't hear anything for a couple minutes because everybody was so loud and cheering it.
It's true. We had a new breed match. We all talked about that. El Diablo versus Dr. Isaac, I think his name was.
Yeah, good match.
Doctor was the NWA. He was the new breed champion, and El Diablo was the challenger for that. That was a very good match. I watched that one in its entirety. I worked some new breed shows. Never worked against either one of them. Of course, neither one of them is like heavyweight. They're skinnier guys.
He weighs less than me, and I'm considered the small one in our group.
El Diablo is pretty skinny, but he's a Mexican wrestler, so they do all that lucha libre flying around stuff, and he's good at it.
He did that.
So that was
so they hit you from angles you don't expect.
Right. Even though I said he's good at it, he wasn't great that night because Doctor was able to get the best of him. So the Doctor kept the title that night, but it was a great match. I watched that whole one, and I also watched Silas versus Plunk match. Niles came to the ring with Terry Gordy's daughter, Miranda. So she was in his corner, and Silas, actually was attempting to do some stuff to her, but she wasn't backing down either. She's a pretty tough broad. Terry Gordy's her father, so she can probably handle her own against him. Very good.
I said we've seen her beat up some women before.
Right,
We brought her in for her own matches before, and we know she's a tough broad.
right. Very good match. Silas, I think, was too much for Plunk in the beginning because he like really dominated the whole match. But Niles was able to get something there at the end. You know, it's kind of controversial. Nick Ridenhour was the referee, and at the end of that match, you know, Nick counted to 3 with Niles on top. But everyone thought that Silas kicked out in time. But you know, you got to
Including
stick
me.
with what the ref sees and what he calls. And he said he didn't get the shoulders up. Of course, Silas was a little pissed off about that. And you can definitely tell he was the heel in the match because he definitely let the fans know what he thought of all of them, which I myself thought it went a little too far because, you know, we try to keep it a family-friendly show. And he wasn't too family-friendly without saying too much. But
Well,
I'm sure you guys...
I won't be bleeping any of the language out, so because we are a freedom podcast, so if you don't like it, don't listen.
Well, like I said, we try to keep it a family-friendly, and he went a little, in my book, a little far. But so after the match, Niles tried to offer him a peace offering. You know, Niles, his day job is he actually owns a winery. So he he always carries bottles of wine. And you know, matter of fact, he was telling me yesterday that he actually started his own whiskey product as well now.
And it tastes pretty good.
Yeah, we both had it that night. Yeah, it's really good. So he offered him some wine, and it looked like it was being accepted in gratitude. But it turned out it was just a way to get Niles back in the ring and take a little bit more punishment. And then the whole crowd interaction kind of happened. You know, Silas decided he was going to leave through the crowd instead of leaving through the way he came, which, again, like you brought it up, had a little drunken guy with a little bit of what do they call it when you're drunk
Liquid
and
courage.
kind of got that
Liquid, yeah, liquid courage.
liquid
False
courage.
bravado.
So he tried to step up and he got well, actually he didn't get knocked down. He fell down on his own because it was a little bit of a scare because Curtis Wild, his son was in the crowd, and that drunk guy actually landed on him. And so that was a little uproar in the locker room about how it happened. And thanks to some fans airing it, we were actually in the locker room able to watch it and seeing that it wasn't Silas's fault, that the drunk guy who fell actually was the one who landed on Curtis's kid.
And
But everything was fine.
Yeah, I have zoomed in footage of the whole thing from start to finish. So yeah, Silas. Only thing Silas did was knock the drink out of the guy's hand. That was it. Everything else the guy did on his own.
Right. Kid was fine. You know, he shook it off. He did have it wasn't a bruise, but he kind of swollen up a little bit. But he's a tough little guy, so he was fine. But good match. And even Teddy Long came. Teddy seen me in the hallway and asked me where Silas went, and I, you know, showed him where, and so we went in together, and he was talking to him about how he thought the match went, and Teddy was telling him different things that he could have done, should have done better. So it seemed to be a good match in a lot of people's eyes.
Although the only criticism I have about that is when he's ripping apart the barriers, he needs to be more careful.
Well, and he actually got yelled at for that because in the state of Missouri, there has to be a barrier between a wrestler and the audience, and just like the same thing, if a fan were to jump the barrier, um, unfortunately, he's fair game because that barrier is what separates you from the show. So once you decide you're part of the show, you actually become part of the show because every wrestler has the right to beat you down if they wanted to. I mean, you see it, and actually, Nate, for one of your 3-minute segments, I would suggest you looking at that because there's plenty of instances where fans decide that they can do what we do and they try to hop in the ring and, most of the time, well, all the time, they get their ass handed to them. I'll tell you, even in WCW, there was plenty of times where some guy jumped in the ring and Macho Man got a hold of him and just beat the crap out of him. And the ref ended up having to get on the side of the fan and actually help protect the fan from Macho Man because he was a full believer. If you jumped that barrier and made it to the ring, your ass was grass, man.
Yeah, you sent me one of Macho Man doing that.
But I know Kevin Nash and Scott Hall, they've all had interference. And even if we can't post it, Rollins just had one, I think it was early last year, that he was the match was over, he was walking back, and a fan got out and ran towards him and actually tackled him. I actually think the fan probably got the best of Rollins in that exchange. But, a lot of people came to Rollins' aid and broke it up. And, some wrestlers are not all about, hitting the fan, Like there was a cool thing that it was a Shawn Michaels versus Steve Austin.
So that was my favorite one.
Yeah. And the fan jumped the barrier. But the fan had Down syndrome, and there was a lot of security guards that went and tried to tackle the kid, but it was a kid. I mean, and I say a kid, he was probably in his 20s, but he had Down syndrome. So Sean actually, broke character and slid out of the ring and actually protected him and shoot off the security guys and actually walked him to the back, or at least walked him up enough where his actual parents or guardian, whoever was with them, was able to jump the barrier as well and take care of him. But I don't know. Were you talking about?
That's not the one I was thinking.
Now
there was one where
Triple
Shawn
H?
Michaels, and Triple H started laying this guy out, and Shawn Michaels just waving from across the ring.
So. And there was Austin talks about it was Austin versus Triple H, and a fan came in there, and Austin was the good guy, and the fan just started towards to take a swing at Austin, and before Austin could even react, Triple H had him down, and Triple H was beating the piss out of him, But
hey, you take that risk. I don't think people realize how big you guys actually are when they're sitting outside of the ring. And I think when they get inside the ring and they're standing toe-to-toe with you, all of a sudden they realize you're a lot bigger than it looks when you're down looking up at the ring.
I tell this story of all the time. $1 Million Man, he's not the tallest guy in the room, but I shook his hand one day and his hand engulfed mine. And that is all the work that you do with your hands, all the grappling, your hands get so strong and so much bigger because you're using them constantly. And he engulfed mine, and I got a pretty big freaking hand. So I mean, it's kind of crazy.
You both got mitts,
right? LA Hustlers and Joe Helms versus Curtis Wilde, Gary Jackson, and Jason Breed. It was a crazy match. And also in perspective, this was a match that happened right after Curtis's kid got pummeled by that drunken guy. So hearing this right before he went out to wrestle, Curtis told me in the back that's all he could think about. You know, he would tag in, do a few things, and kind of see, because he didn't know if the guy got thrown out or what happened. He didn't know. So he said he was scanning the audience to see if he can pick out the guy. By then he was already thrown out. That fan, Herb did, you seen him throw the guy out really fast. But Curtis didn't know, because the last thing he heard was his kid could have got injured, and then you hear your music. It was always on his mind during the match. But the match was back and forth. It's always crazy. Every match that I've had with the Hustlers, it always gets crazy because they're always doing some sort of illegal cheating move where both of them are in the ring, or one of them's in the ring distracting everyone else, and the other one is cheating to pummel you from the backside. And this time you had Joe Helms in the mix too, so you had three of them from Lucky P's organization trying to do some damage, but Gary Jackson and Jason Breed and Curtis Wilde was able to win that match. But even after that, Joe Helms, how it ended, Joe Helms had, I think it was Jason Breed, kind of held up from the back, and one of the Hustlers had something in his hand, and he was going to hit Jason Breed, but or whoever it was, I can't remember if it was Jackson or Jason Breed, but they ducked, and so the LA Hustler hit Joe Helms and knocked him out, and that's what made them lose. So
that explains some of that. There was some tension between those three in the Rumble too.
Yeah,
that explains a little bit of that.
After the match, Lucky P actually had to separate Joe Helms from the Hustlers because they were actually going to go at it.
Joe Helms is a big dude. He is a big dude. He's got some muscle packed on him.
Well, so a little background history with him is he was a arena football player. He was doing that before he decided to step in the ring and get trained to be a wrestler. And he was pretty popular down there. I think he was in the Tennessee area. Is where he was doing the arena football. So yeah, I mean, he is. He's built like a weightlifter, or a football player. You would. But yeah, so there's a lot of tension there, and Lucky P had to calm down the situation, which I guess still went through in the Rumble. But speaking of the Rumble, that was the next one. So
nope.
There was one more before the Rumble.
Well, I have your match at top because I knew yours was before the Rumble. So why don't you go ahead and explain your match?
My match was what's that?
Break it down for us.
It was my rematch with Sean Vincent for my Central States title. I guess I officially have to say his Central States title for now. So it was going pretty good. I thought I had him dead to rights, and it was a good back and forth match. Like I said, I thought I had him. I hit him with that full Nelson suplex. I was exhausted by this point, and I had my back to him, pinning him, and I heard that 3 count, and I thought I had it and got up and walked away, the other side of the ring, tried to breathe a little bit and celebrate, and apparently he grabbed the rope just in time. And so while my back was turned, he loaded up that boot and shot it right into my gut, feeling like a baseball bat. And that was that.
That was a little fun.
It was a great match, though, and I'm not going to get into the details because I do believe in kayfabe, but Gary Hart did say some good compliments to that match. So
Do you think the match would have turned out differently if the air conditioning had been on?
It might have been, because I was completely exhausted more than I would have normally been. Don't get me wrong. Sean Vincent is a great athlete and wrestler. He knows what the hell he's been doing. He's been doing it for a long, long, long time. But I feel like I did get a little more exhausted quicker than normal.
Mm-hmm. I'll tell you, I've seen some pictures of that match. I didn't watch your whole match. I was going back and forth, getting mentally prepared for mine because mine was coming up. But I've seen some pictures, and it looked like you had him in a stalling suplex for a pretty good time there.
Well, there was. I just remember holding him up. They were just trying to breathe, catch your breath. This is your chance to catch your breath. Holding him in the air was my chance to catch my breath.
Herb and I were talking when you were doing that, and Herb was just like, I don't see how Bobby's still standing because it was so hot. You were holding for so long, your legs were starting to shake. And I was
I
like,
was getting a little dizzy.
you're the timber anytime he's got to fall.
Oh, that's pretty crazy. But yeah, the pictures look great. So yeah, hard fought match. Hopefully you get another shot at that title though, because it would be cool to.
I'm not ready to give up.
Right. I mean, you were able to recapture the Bruce Brody Memorial Cup, which was the next match, the 30-man over the top rope.
So, and that's where it was 35 people in this one, from what I was told.
35. Woo.
35 is bigger than it's ever been. So, obviously, you couldn't put 35 people in that ring at once. So they started with 15. This was right after my match with Sean Vincent, and wouldn't you know it, I got to be in those first 15.
You were in there from start to finish.
Yeah, and who was that last one? Somehow weaseled his way into there? Sean Vincent.
Oh, so it got back down to you two.
He was the last one in there. That's where I said there was some of that tension. I didn't really know where it came from. It was me, Sean Vincent, the LA Hustlers, and Joe Helms.
Wow.
Joe Helms eliminated the LA Hustlers.
Did he really?
He did.
And I went to pick their leg up. I barely saw it on my eye. I think Vincent might have helped me lift Helms' leg up, and then it was down to me and Vincent.
Wow.
He thought he threw me out for a quick elimination. I held on to the rope, got back in, and clotheslined him so hard over the rope I almost went with him.
Oh.
I had to kind of catch myself on the ropes and pull myself back in.
Wow.
Yeah, Vincent was kissing some barrier.
There was a balancing act there for a second.
I mean, that's awesome. So you kind of got a little payback for your match.
I did. Man, that place erupted. It was awesome.
Man, can you imagine the gloat he would have had if he would have, won the match and took the cup?
I
We've
wouldn't
been
want to do
living
that.
with him. We couldn't even put him on the podcast again.
Right. Man, so that's awesome. So again, you have the cup, the only person to win it back to back, only person to ever win it twice.
Yeah, it's a great honor.
Double history.
There's no three better men to represent an honor, not to honor for St. Louis wrestling. You got Larry Matisick, Tony Costa, and Bruiser Brody. Like, who is bigger than those three when it comes to St. Louis wrestling?
Right.
Now, Bobby D.
I do not put myself with those three. Those three are legends.
So did Barbara award you the trophy again?
So there was a little snafu from a weaselly little snake in there. It was being brought up to me, or to her to give to me, and Sean Vincent tried to grab it and run away with it. And then I chased him, couldn't find him. Next thing I know, someone's telling me that Herb told me to get it back out there now. I don't know. I'm sure there were some other words that were said to him that probably weren't as nice as that.
Yeah.
So, someone told me that they were back out there with it. So I went out there, and then, yes, Barbara did award it to me in the end.
And because of all the shenanigans where it was supposed to be awarded in the ring, it was awarded outside of the ring, and perhaps the smallest area, so I wasn't able to get
I said
footage of her giving it to you.
I do have a couple pictures that fans sent me. I can send to you, and you can post them here. But yeah, I'm not sure I could have climbed back into that ring at this point.
No, you were
Oh, my
sucking
goodness.
air, and
Like I said, it was Sean Vincent's match. It was the Rumble from start to finish, and then it was chasing his little weasel butt around trying to find my damn trophy. One thing that did make me laugh a little bit, perk up a little bit in the Rumble, is the big LA Hustler. He tried to give me a chop, and I know that I gave him one back, and I heard, screw this, and he took off across the ring.
well, I mean, when you were done with the cup, and I tried to get you back up on stage to, give your, your signature win that we have in our opening. I mean, you had blood blisters all over the front of you.
I'll have to give you that pose another time. It was all it was an emotional daze. It was a physical daze. Like, I was just out in a daze at that point.
Yeah. Okay, now, Jim, tell us about your match. Yours was next.
Well, I'll tell you, when he was talking about emotional day, physical day, through the Fan Fest, I actually cut out like 2 hours early. Because I came back, so it was probably around 1:30ish, maybe 2 o'clock. I cut up, and I knew I had this big match coming up, and there's no way I could physically stay there in the heat. And I knew I would have a good match with that. So I actually darted out for about an hour and a half, kind of cooled down, rested my thoughts, and then came back and finished the Fan Fest. But yeah, so my match. I don't think the fans really got it, the stipulations that went along with this match. I don't think the ref really got it with the stipulations either. But so the thing with the Texas Death Match, it's a no DQ, no time limit. You have to pin your opponent, get the 3 count, and then they get 30 seconds to kind of collect their thoughts. And then after the 30 seconds, they get 10 seconds to stand back up to their feet. And if they can stand back up, then the match carries on. So it really doesn't matter how many pinfalls there was. I don't even know how many I had versus how many Attila had, or how many pinfalls together.
You had 6.
Wow. See, I didn't even know. Just because in the heat of the battle, you just do what you do.
Yeah, he had 3. You had 6. So.
Oh my God. That's kind of crazy to me. But I tell you, every fight that I have with Attila is always a hard one. And, every time you think you got him down, you don't. And he gets right back up. Evidently, it was 6 times I pinned him. That means 5 times he got back up. But yeah, I tell you, it wasn't just one lariat. I repeatedly had to throw that sucker. I got him down pretty. I guess he didn't see me coming in the beginning because he actually attacked me when the match started. I thought he was doing his little praying gimmick because he was kneeling down. So I turned my back, and that was the downside because he immediately got up and went straight for me. So I still had everything on. I still had my chaps, still had my hat on, and so he immediately started pummeling me. But I was able to do a little move off the ropes and got him with the back elbow, which got me the first one. And you can, when I first got that first pin, you can hear the audience thinking it was over with already. Because no one stressed the stipulations. If you were there, if you were coming to SICW the last few matches, you would know the stipulations that was placed on this match. But since it was a fan fest, there's a lot of people there was not a regular to the SICW shows. So everyone thought the match was over, and this was like 20 seconds into the match. You know,
Into a 20-minute match, 26 minutes your match went.
yeah. So yeah, it was a lot of back and forth. You know, I already posted a couple pictures, and I said I had to sink down to Attila's level, but that's exactly what I had to do. You know, because he, of course, had his fork that he hides. Of course, he didn't really have to hide it this time. So he was able to get me down with the fork, busted me open. I got a little cut on my eyes. And I think I broke one of my knuckles on my left hand from hitting him. So it was a couple times back and forth where he got me, and then I retaliated. You know, I clotheslined him over the ropes, and then when he got back up, I beat him back into the ring. You know, flipping him over the ropes backwards because I just bent him backwards and was forearming him, and I forearmed him so much that he, did a flip back into the ring. You know, there was a time when I grabbed my bull rope and was actually choking him, and I scored a pin that way. You know, but of course he picked up a chair, knocked me for a loop a couple times with the chair. Matter of fact, I wasn't really walking too great today. I had a little wrestler's hunch. You know, you lean forward a bit.
Now, all of
That
this
chair
was
was non-usable after that. That thing was all bent up.
all of this took place after you were virtually blinded, right? Where didn't he go for an eye rake and your contacts got ripped out?
Oh yeah, so immediately, the first thing he does is goes for your eyes, and literally he had put his fingers in my eyes so much that, yeah, I felt like Stan Hansen because I am blind without my contacts in, and so yeah, most of the match I'm blind, just going off of instinct, and that probably made it worse for Attila. Because just like Hansen said, he made sure he hit you with everything because he couldn't tell if he was hitting you or not. Because back in the day, he wore glasses. There was no such thing as contacts. So he couldn't wear his glasses in the ring, so he hit you with full force. I feel like that's what I did that night because I couldn't see. And then he even screwed me up later because after he got me with the chair, I was able to retaliate, grab the chair, and hit him a couple times with it. But somewhere in the melee, he got back up in the ring, and I was still on the outside. And I climbed up into the ring, and as I was getting in, he did like a great Muda mist, and I couldn't even see because I was already blind, and now I got shit in my eyes. And of course, he scored a victory over that. Got a pinfall, and thanks to Bobby, he actually came out with some water. And,
Well, that's about where I was in the hallway that you were talking about earlier, just trying to catch my breath after the Rumble. Took a picture of the couple fans that were out there, and I look in the window like you were saying, and I saw that mist in the air. It's like, what the is that?
Right. So Bobby came down to the ring and kind of helped me out, sprayed me down with some water, and I was able to get back up to my feet. But then I caught Attila with another lariat. And this is the part that I'm not 100% sure on, being in the rules, because it's a no DQ, no disqualification, no time limit. So I pinned Attila, but he grabbed a hold of the rope. And the ref called it, saying that I didn't get the pin, which I don't think the rope break means anything in a no DQ match.
That just means you're not disqualified. That doesn't mean there's not any rules to the match.
Yeah.
And if anybody's going to know the rules, I think James Beard is the one.
That's true. So anyway, Attila wheezed out of that one. So I went back to my bull rope. Oh, speaking of that, my branding iron, I was able to hit Attila a few times with the branding iron. A lot of
Because you couldn't see, you got that close to a fan when you came down on his back with that branding iron. It hit that barrier, and that fan was right there. They turned back and looked at me, and I'm just like, oh,
right. Don't stand next to that barrier.
maybe you should not be up on the barrier when two big guys are coming at you.
Right.
Sit back some.
So anyway, what sealed the deal is I wrapped that bull rope around my arm and had that bell right in my bicep. And so I was able to give a lariat with a little extra effort with a bell. And even after that, I seen him, he was knocked down, and I took that bell in my hand and I went down with it too, right on his head. And if you've seen any pictures of him afterwards, his nose is all busted open from that bell. The branding iron busted him open in his head. And like I said, he busted me open too. So I was actually bleeding from both hands and my eye. And he was...
At the very beginning, he busted your lip too. You were in the very start of
actually, I've been playing around with that part on the inside of my mouth that was cut. I guess I must have bit my lip or something when he punched me or something. So yeah, he's got all busted open nose and everything from that. But that scored the final pin, and then he wasn't able to get up for the 30 seconds, and then wasn't able to get up for the final 10. So that got me this guy right here. So, I've been a champion of other promotions. And one, I always thought the promotion that I wanted to be the champion of the most was one that shall not be named. But I was the champion there. But I tell you, this belt means so much more than any belt I've ever held. Multiple battle royal champions for different companies, tag team champions for different companies. Like I said, heavyweight champion. But this one right here has got the prestige. It's got every single person's name, except for the two new ones, that's in the St. Louis Hall of Fame. So it's got everyone's name there. It's got the Keel symbol. It's got the Sam Mushnick era, the years that he was the president of the NWA.
Can you lift that part up higher? It didn't show. Sam Mushnick. The one with Sam on it.
This is the Sam Mushnick era, and this is the Keel Center, which the Checker Dome are the two places the wrestling at the Chase would run, or Sam Mushnick would run. What it was is one of them, I don't know which one held the most, but if it was just like a regular card, they would have at one. But if it was like a super card, they would have it the other. So those are the two places that they used. But yeah, so this is the highlight of my wrestling career. And I just recently won another belt for SICW. So actually, I guess I'm the Grand Slam champion of SICW, because, back when they had the interstate title belts, me and Waco won those. I've been a Bruiser Brody Cup winner. Well, I'm not a Grand Slam. I've never won the Central States. But we have the tag team championship belts now, and me and Gary won those, and now I got this. So yeah, this is definitely a highlight of my career, and I first started trying to wrestle when I was 18 going on 19. Not to date myself, but I'm 45 years old now. And, time kind of passes me over because I don't remember. I always forget how old I am. Sometimes I think I'm 44, but I think I'm 45 right now. But this is definitely a highlight. It's like the top of the cake, man. Because even when I grabbed the mic afterwards, I expressed that J.J. Dillon and Gerald Briscoe was just inducted into the Hall of Fame in the very ring that I just wrestled and won this belt in. And to have, all the legends watching, all the fans watching, and it being 9 months in the making to get me to this point, or 27 years in the making, I guess you would say, because it's been around that. I always goof up when I talk about my career because a good portion of my career I don't remember. And I think that's with the concussions that I've had because I did a little search on YouTube as recently as like 2 weeks ago, and I was watching matches. I don't remember being in the match. There was a match that I just posted on YouTube, and it was a 3-way dance. It was me versus 2 other people, and I'm watching this match, and it's me in there, and I'm thinking, man, this is a good match. And I was doing moves that I don't do now, and I even put that in the description. I was like, man, I forgot these moves. So it's just weird like that. And that's happened to me a lot. Where even after the show was over and I'm roaming around with the belt, I had this lady come up to me and asked me to look in a direction at a gentleman, and she goes, "Do you remember him?" Sure didn't. And she goes, "He had your first practice match for MMWA when I was very first going through my training." And I looked at him and I could not remember him. And then I walked over to him and we spoke, and he filled me in on the details, and I was like, "Oh yeah, okay, now it's ringing a bell." But so it's certain things, because I know I was about 18, 19 when I first tried to dabble into it, because I was running a Valvoline. I was a store manager there, and it was the first store that I ever ran. And I know I was handed keys when I was 17 to the store. My first store that I was just like an assistant manager, to. So I had to be about 18 or 19 when I first dabbled into getting into pro wrestling. And again, I still carry his picture because I just recently went through and found it. Joe Curry, which recently, since we talked about him in an earlier podcast, we found each other on Facebook and we were able to communicate back and forth. And he's living his high life in Florida right now. He's an entrepreneur. I think he's got a couple companies that he runs. But we spoke about, if there was ever a time that he wanted to get back into wrestling, give it one more round between me and him. And another wrestler who has been retired for years, and I'll give him a shout out, Jerome Cody. Me and him, my second stint at Broadway, MMWA, my second stint there was the time that I kept going through Hell Week and Hell Week and Hell Week because everyone kept quitting, and I was the only constant. And so I would just be put in with another group of people, and people just keep dropping out. Well, the last round of people, it got down to me and Jerome Cody. And then we were both kicked out. So we both didn't make the cut. But, eventually we both made it back to Broadway. We both ran. But I don't know if something happened to him into retirement, because he retired early. I think he was only maybe a couple years before he gave up.
I talked to him a little bit at FanFest too, and I think he had some injuries pile up on him.
Yeah. But even he came out and challenged me for the belt. So him seeing me still in it and winning this championship that night got him the itch to where now he's talking about getting back in the ring and getting back in the shape and challenging me for it down the road. So we'll see if that ever happens. A lot of people, they get that itch, but once they get back in the ring, it's amazing how quickly those injuries start to come back. Because your body's not used to falling backwards, not used to a lot of people think it's a big old thick mat that we fall on, but once your body gets back to feeling what it is to fall on wood and steel, your symptoms start to show back again. But it was kind of cool. I got to give a shout out to Jim Harris, or else I like to call him Boss. He was there, and he runs another Hall of Fame. I'm going to butcher it because there's so many different Hall of Fames, but he awarded Earl Hebner into the Hall of Fame, because a lot of people don't know, but Earl Hebner reffed a lot of matches in St. Louis, whether it be for SICW, whether it be for MMWA, or even other promotions. And so his Hall of Fame awarded Earl.
Independent Pro Wrestlers Hall of Fame, I believe, is what it is.
Okay. But it was great to see Mr. Harris, because, he was around when I first was getting into the business. And he reffed, he reffed both mine and Bobby's matches for a long time.
I always like to throw the story out there. I was very early in my career going against Moondog. And Moondog had me cornered, gave me a chop, and then you got Harris egging him on over there, calling him names and saying, "Is that all he's got?" And, Moondog getting fired up and lifting my shirt off and throwing him even harder.
And he was the ref in that match?
Yeah, Harris was the ref egging him on.
That's even better. A ref egging on a wrestler to hit him harder. Great.
Well, I do know when I was we were talking for a while, and then Tony and Matt came over, and then we were all talking. He was saying the only way that he would get back in is he misses being around you guys. Some of the things, but he named you guys. I don't know if it was because he was talking to me, so he named you guys, so I wouldn't say anything. I don't know, but he repeated it to Tony, he repeated it to Mac, and then the Missouri commissioner.
Harris was always a good guy. He even brought his son in, and we helped train his son for a little while. He just didn't stick around with it too terribly long.
The great thing about Harris is he took his job serious. Some refs, they're just there. They don't take it serious. They don't. I call him boss because I respected him. Great little things like his story about him egging on another wrestler, say, "Come on, you hit like a bitch." I remember there was one night in the locker room. He was one of the jailhouses in St. Louis. He was like a high officer. I don't know how their rankings go, but So he was used to throwing around big guys because that's what his day job was. And I remember one day I smarted off to him, and he hit me with the nightstick. Just because it was his own personal nightstick, and he was still in uniform, But definitely a great guy. There was talks about him starting his own promotion, which would be great because I think he would be a great promoter because he probably wouldn't take any shit from any other wrestlers. Some wrestlers
Especially the
come
new
with
guys. Especially the new guys. He was saying he can't stand new wrestlers. The new wave, he can't stand it.
That's because even I myself, talk to my new guys. That their training versus my training are totally different now because now you have the whole I get offended too easy, or because I've had 3 guys already go because they got offended by something that we did or something we said. And no one has a backbone anymore, so they got all pissy. And we do this. I don't get paid to do this. I do it to give back to something that I love. And if you're gonna get all bent out of shape, um, get, you can get lost. And the
Thanks for
group
bringing
of
Glenn Williams up, huh?
right, it's
Yeah,
it's a
that's what
hard
happened train
business.
Glenn Williams.
It's a hard business, especially back in the day. It was a hard business to get in and to stay in because back then people had egos. A lot of people worked the politics in the back to get a higher status or further on the card. Now there's not anything like, and the training has gotten easier because you can't say shit to them. I mean, I still do. I still
Just,
like to train them the way I was trained.
I say, just to take that back a step, like I don't think Gary really got into it when we had him on, but I believe when he told me he was sent to the wrong location for like 6 months before he ever got to meet anybody to even begin training.
Right. Even back in the day, like Hulk Hogan, he got his leg broken, and that was the first time he got in the ring. They broke his leg, and because they just broke it to get him out of the way. But he came back and still wanted to train. You hear stories like that all the time. Now, if I go in there and break someone's leg, I'm sure I'm going to have a lawsuit on my hands.
Oh,
so training's a little bit different.
Yeah, I think a lot of the new guys now, when they come in, their expectation versus reality is way askew because they live their life on their computer, on their phones, and on TV. They don't think they're going to get hurt, but you guys get hurt every time you get in the ring. You're bleeding somewhere. You're bruised. It's.
I always like to bring up. Sometimes it's the dumbest things that you don't even think would hurt, like Vader when he came back to Raw and he stepped off the ring and hurt himself. There was a viral video of an indie promotion, and this video has been sent to me 100 times by different people I know. That it was a guy. He was on the middle rope, just like I do every match. Before the match, hands up in the air, jumps off the rope, turns around, lands, and his knee goes sideways.
That was like, both of his knees too.
I say it's like, yes, there are many, many dangers in the match, but sometimes it's even the most simple, basic things that you wouldn't even think is a danger.
Well, in my being a trainer, some of them come in thinking that they know it all already, and they feel that they should, show up and immediately be put on a card because they think they know it. But a lot of them doesn't realize it's a dance. You might be able to do fancy moves, but there's another person in the ring that might not let you be able to do those moves because, they're beating the shit out of you. So just because you know a move or two doesn't mean you actually be able to apply it in a ring, in a match.
You gotta see the opening in their footwork to get your footwork in.
Right.
And you guys have to switch leads. Somebody takes the lead, the other one has to sell it, and you guys switch back and forth.
Well,
If you don't know how to do that.
When I go into a match, I want to be the dominant person. So you got to make the other guy subdued. And same thing with like Attila. He wants to be the dominant person. And so we're both trying to subdue each other to try to get the upper hand. And if you come in thinking, well, I know how to do this and this, who's to say I'm going to put you in the position that you can do that to me? Because my goal is to win the match, so I'm going to do whatever I can to not let you do anything, so I can just dominate the whole thing and get the pin. And some people just don't realize that. They just, I hate to say keyboard warriors, but a lot of people come in. I had a whole group, 4 students, paid their money, went to training 3 times. I think it took them 3 times for all of them to give up. And I'm fine. You can pay the club money because it's your money, it's not mine. And I get a little practice out of you. And if you quit, you quit. But they came in thinking that it was going to be a cool thing that they can be able to do, and then jump right into a match on a show. And they found out it was a little different. After three practices, all of them, nope, it's not for me.
Well, that's where I've said the first night I ever went to training, I brought a buddy with me, and he made it one night.
And which is good, because that's what got me back into it. So
yeah, it's like I need someone to go with me. Come on.
All it took for me is to see you guys break the ring down, and I knew, not for me. The mat's only that thick, and the rest is metal and wood.
right.
I always like
not
this.
good.
I always like when I'm kind of incognito and I'll see a fan go up and hit the ring, like, they just reach right there and hit the ring, and the shock on their face, like, that's not soft.
It's not. It's like, yeah, no, my back isn't good enough for that. But we've been going over 2 hours now. How long do you guys want to go?
I was going to say, my back still is sore from 2 nights ago.
Oh, yeah, same as mine. I was at my day job, and I had sat for like the first hour of the day, and when I went to get up and start walking, that's what your body gets in that position for so long, and then when you try to move around, you got to actually lubricate those joints again before you're walking straight. And a person had walked by me, and they said, "Ooh, must have been a hard weekend." I said, "Yes, it was." But anyway, so great, awesome weekend. Great for SICW. Great for the fans all around the world, since it was Germany, Canada, Texas, and everything. So awesome. I do want to plug one more thing, and that's coming up June 3rd. That's our next SICW show. It's a fundraiser. It's going to be at the Beauclair Fairgrounds. It's going to be in the main hall, the big hall. I'm sure me and Bobby will both be on the card, but the main headline to that show, and it's been in the making for about 6 months now, because Purple Haze and Kevin Sullivan came in and bloodied up Flash Flanagan, and he never really got his revenge because it was like a one and done, where they thought they would be able to just leave SICW and not worry about it. But somehow Herb has got him in a contract. So on June 3rd, Beauclair Fairgrounds, there's going to be a steel cage match between Purple Haze and Flash Flanagan with Kevin Sullivan on the outside. So
I didn't know Kevin was coming in.
yeah, Kevin's coming back.
I say on the poster, I just keep seeing the two in the cage.
No, I picked up the posters tonight, and they're both on it, I think. I mean, I know for a fact Kevin Sullivan's coming in. Whether he's on the poster or not, I can't remember. Well, I'll tell you what. One of my matches a while back, and I've been wrestling with it for the last 3 months. It was actually a match with Joel Helms. A stupid move, because it wasn't even a move. Like Bobby says, some of the biggest injuries come from doing the simplest things. I had backed myself into the corner to jump off with like a double arm, hit. And just me backing myself up and lifting myself up, I felt my bicep muscle like made a popping sound. And then as I came off to hit him, I felt that whole muscle stretch. So of course, I had the MRI done last week. And tomorrow I go in to find out what's torn. Now, what's great about it is I'm in no pain. And, that happened a few months ago. It just looks a little deformed. But at least tomorrow I'll be able to find out what is actually wrong and see if I could postpone it as long as I can before I have to have something done to it.
Because you don't want to vacate your belt for not being able to defend it.
You're damn right.
I got to go get the Central States title back so we can have all the gold on our podcast.
Yeah,
there we go.
And I'll only have this gold.
I'll let you borrow one of my son's wrestling medals. You can wear it.
No. Nate has to hop in the ring and tag with someone to be the tag champions. I'll tell you what, Bob is a mentor of mine. He's, the head of the Ace Academy. And, of course, I'm one of the trainees. So I'm glad just to have Bob Orton and Tony Atlas as the tag champions. So we'll count them as part of the family of the podcast. And as soon as Bobby gets his Central States belt, we'll have all the gold. I'll consider that all the gold.
Well, you need to get a picture of Bob and hang it on the wall behind you during the podcast.
There we go. I will do that.
Well, we're going to negotiate for Tony and Mac to come on our podcast here in the near future. So,
yeah. And we got a couple other people lined up. We were able to talk to some of the wrestlers, and a lot of people actually was giving Nate, positive reviews on the podcast. So that's always good to hear. And it shows because we're at 115 now, so we kind of jumped a few branches there in the subscribes, and and some of your 3-minute videos have got over a K, viewing. So it's definitely getting out there.
We're still going to keep going. Yeah, what I'm surprised about is how many legends watch our podcast, but they don't promote it and say, if you want to watch something that what they say it's actually good, put it out there. Sure. Let everybody see how good it is.
A lot of them like to promote stuff that they're on or stuff that they're part of. Like almost all the wrestlers nowadays have a podcast.
Let me throw it out there right now that any legend watching, you are welcome to come on. Send a message.
You can say whatever you want, and it's not made for kids, so you can curse as much as you want. We don't care. We don't mind. But
so
another
speaking
thing,
of that,
I just say another thing really quick. Our 100th subscriber was Ramblin' Hamlin. He's actually an SICW photographer. So Jim, Bobby, and I talked to him at the Fan Fest. He declined all the prizes for being the 100, and asked that we give.
He is sporting
Yep, I'll get to you in a sec. So he's giving it to the next person, which is Robert Greer. The podcast did subscribe to your page. I'm going to pin a comment for you to get in contact with us, and we will line out everything that you can have, and you just have to pick, and we'll get it signed, and we'll send it to you. So, Robert Greer, congratulations, you're 101 in the podcast.
There we go.
But Ramblin' Hamlin, Bobby didn't think it was right that he didn't get anything. So Bobby did give him one of his shirts. And he was more than happy to take it. Wouldn't take no for an answer.
We'll see that photographer sporting Bobby D around the ring now.
There you go.
And when Bobby gets in an arm bar and saying you're taking a shirt, you kind of have to take the shirt.
Anyway, what I was just going to say, like we always do, please like, subscribe, share, comment. All of that helps us keep this going. If we know the fans are loving the information that we're talking about, if there's any topics that you want us to cover or try to get any particular wrestler for SICW or any local wrestler around here on, we'll be happy to do it. I think this weekend was great for all the companies. On Facebook, I'm friends with other wrestlers for other promotions, and I think everyone did great. Even with our big show, the other ones, was able to do their job too. So in the lines of professional wrestling, we all did a great weekend. So that's always good, regardless of what promotion you work for. But I'm hoping that this one was good enough, and there's been talks that it was good enough that we might see this happen again next year. So, guys, I would suggest, fans, get into Herb Simmons' ear, comment on the SICW webpage or even their YouTube channel, and hype up what a great time you had, and demand a sequel.
And
so
now,
we can,
I put it on my Facebook page, but I highly recommend anytime after any show, this one especially being the case, go to Herb Simmons' page, and the photos and videos that the fans share to his Facebook page is just amazing.
right. And it's also a good way for us to see the pictures and photos and videos that you take, because sometimes, like, I put it out there on my Facebook, please, any fan that has a picture of me winning the title, this is the first time I've ever won this classic title. So, that's something that I want to remember. And right now I can still remember it. So, if you guys can share those pictures or, get on my socials or even this socials, because we are on, of course, YouTube. We are on Instagram. We're on Twitter. You can always leave them on any of those platforms. Soon to be getting a Facebook platform, so you can leave them on that too. We'll send that information out once we get it all up to date. But again, yes, please like, subscribe, share, comment, and get us out there, because we would love to keep doing this. We're only on 21, but we still got the rest of the year to go. So help us out.
It's been a blast so far. I don't see it any.
It's going to be a wild ride.
It is.
All right.
It's been fun.
Well, from everyone on the Squared Ring podcast, I would like to say thank you, and you guys have a good week.